welcome to this video. In this video, we will see how do we build a enterprise grade .NET Core application from start to finish. So as you see here, there are a lot of moving parts involved in this. If we go down, there are a lot of teams involved in this whole process. To get started with, of course, like the development will be done by the development team, and the pipeline will be owned by the DevSecOps team, and then the infrastructure will be owned by the platform engineering team, and then the security will be governed by the security team. Pipeline. So as you see here, like the client request will reach the gateway. The gateway will call the authentication endpoint to validate the token. If it is valid, then the request will go to the controller. Controller will then call the mediator. Mediator will handle the request. So mediator will call the service. So basically, like this is where you have your business logic implemented. Then the service will make a call to the repository where like you handle all your data access. The repository will make a call to the database either to read or make the changes into the database. For the purpose of this particular demo, we will be discussing a small inventory application. So this application will have a single table with these columns: ID, name, price, and stock. On this particular table, we will be performing the following operations: check availability, get the inventory by ID, get all the items, add item, delete item, and update item. So for this particular project, we will be using a number of libraries, from API versioning to authentication, JWT authentication, Azure integration to interact with Key Vault, Azure app configuration, and all those. And the logs will be we will be using Cyrillic for logging, and we will be using the health check and telemetry like Azure Insights. And Swagger definition for the data data access, we will be using Entity Framework, and for validation we will be using the Fluent validation, and the mediator for your command query implementation, and application insights for your monitoring. So let's jump into the code. Let's see like how do we implement all of this. Look into the endpoints and try to understand. So the first endpoint that I have, it's the health endpoint. Here where like you will see the overall status of your service. So this application has only a database, so that is why like we are just validating the database. But let's assume that your application has a number of dependencies. We'll be validating all those dependencies and providing the status of the individual dependency, also the cumulative status. Just the monitoring system know that hey, like this application it's up and run, or if there are any issues with this. Then the second endpoint, it's about to get the inventory. So in this case, I'm checking the inventory of this particular item ID 1. So here it says that hey, like the item ID 1 it's found, and it is a laptop, and currently I have 10 stocks. And the next endpoint, it's like this is just to showcase like how exactly the implementation it's done here. So as you see here, there is a error occurred, right? So because it says that that there is a validation error occurred, the ID must be greater than 0. So here I'm checking the ID 0, the quantity it's 5, quantity it's fine, but then like item ID should be greater than 0. So in this case it's a validation error. And there is okay, let's see. Okay, now I'm checking for item ID 1, and as you see here, like it is saying hey, the item it's found in the inventory. And then let's assume that this item doesn't exist. So it clearly says that this item doesn't exist. So if you clearly observe here, like the way we are representing or sending the response back to the client, it always follows a specific pattern. So in case of any errors, this is the pattern that you will see. In case of any data available, then you will see a pattern something like this. So let's assume that I wanted to check all those. So here it says hey, like like these are all the data that I have it here, right? So as you see here, under the items I am listing the some of these items, but like it is also giving me the details about the pagination. So I'm not returning all the values from the database, rather like it is going to be items per page it's 10, and the like total number of items that I have 18. So in that sense, like right now you are looking at a page number 1, but then like there are 2 pages. So you can always request the second page if you really wanted to have it. um, and then like this is again the same implementation, but then like it is just to return the first 10 records here. And second page, you can say like the page index should be 2, and the like number of items per page it's 10, and you can send you will get the response back here, right? So here again, like it clearly says that how many items are there, and the like which page you are in, how many pages are there in total, right? So now if you want to add a new item into the inventory, you can do so by sending this. So this particular item got created, and it is again giving you the URL to access the item that is added. And then like you can also update the item here. So item number ID 20. So we can update this. Okay, so here the item ID should be 20. So let's send. So this is updated. And then like you can also delete the item. Okay, let me delete the item that we created just now. That is again deleted. Now let's see if we can find this particular item. So maybe if I just go here and try to get the item 20 which we deleted, it's not there, it's not found, right? So these are all the endpoints that I have, right? So now let's see like how exactly this is done here. Going to go into the details of this implementation. If I really try to do so, it is going to take at least couple of hours for us to complete the video. That is not my intention here. It is just to give you the overall structure, that way like you can define your implementation accordingly, right? So now let's start with the program.cs. As you see here, so basically like program cs, it's the entry point. So in this particular case, like what we are trying to do is that we are trying to connect with the application configuration. So I really don't want to read any configuration from app settings or environment variable if you're talking about Docker, right? So I just wanted to have a simple mechanism. So what I want to do is that I will have all my configuration in the application configuration backed by Key Vault. So my application just need to connect with the application configuration. When it is connected, it should know, or it will know what are all the configuration that it can expect, and it will pull all those configurations. Simple as that, right? I will be using Serilog for logging purposes. So this configures the Serilog, the program CS configures the Serilog, and the like it also adds the application insights for your telemetry, and the like it calls this startup.cs backbone. So basically it does lot of things here. So basically like as you see here, it registered the mediator, and the like it also registers the automapper fluent validation, and the like it configures the authentication using Keycloak. It set up your entity framework, and it register your repository domain services. Also it registers your health check endpoints and a Swagger. And once all of these are registered, then it configures your pipeline such a way, means like we discussed the pipeline, right? So it configures the pipeline in such a way like the request will go through the pipeline. Then the service collection extension. So basically like I wanted to keep the startup.cs as simple as possible. So as you see here, like there is not much that you will see here. The reason is that I'm using the service collection extension here. So if for instance, like if you see here, add application. So if you come down here, this particular one, add application, it adds the mediator, automapper, and it also register your validation assembly. So all of these are put together as a single method so that the startup.cs can make a call. So then we have this middleware extension. So basically, like in case of any errors happens, I wanted to handle it, not let the system to handle it. Rather, like I wanted to handle any any failures by myself. So basically, like what it does is that it just registers the extension handler. So in the extension handler, like what I'm saying is that, hey, like look at the error and then like serialize the error, send the error back to the client. So that way, like remember, like we were checking for a specific item that is not there, and then like the validation error was thrown and the error was uh, captured by this exception handler, and the like it does the JSON serialization and sends the error back to the client such a way like the client can understand, not necessarily throwing a bunch of stock trays. Then we have a logging behavior. So logging behavior and validation behavior both are for a mediator. So like when a request reaches the mediator, I wanted to capture certain information for tracing purposes. So that is what this logging behavior does. And the validation behavior, basically like a mediator receive a request, then it needs to kick in the validator. That is what we say with in this validation behavior. Then we have this base controller. Base controller, it's where like we have some base some of the very basic method defined here. In this case, it is just about getting the API version from the HTTP context. Then we have this health controller here. So as you see here, basically like it just talks to the health service, and it sends a simple query to the database to know like whether database it's up and run. And this one doesn't inherit from the base controller, just uses the standard controller base. The reason is that a base controller uses the authorize attribute, basically in order to access any of these methods within this base controller. You need to have a token. For a health check, you really don't need to pass a token, right? And the like you can always extend the iHealth check. So that is what we have done here. So using which like we are checking the database status. Now we have the most important controller here, our inventory controller. As you see here, this is extended from a base controller, which means that if at all you wanted to call any of the method or endpoint, then you have to pass your JWT token. So here like we are just making a call to the check inventory using a mediator. So what it will do is that it will go to the as you see here, like this is the structure that we follow here, right? So we have a feature inventory. Underneath you will have a command and query. So this is going to be a query for you. So basically like what we are saying is that, hey, like you can expect item ID and the required quantity, using which you should check your inventory database. If there is any enough quantity, you have to say true, or if it doesn't have, then you have to say false. So that is what we are returning as a bold here. And then like there is a validator, because you don't want to go to the database. Before you go to the database, you wanted to do some due diligence. So that's what we do here. So item ID should be greater than 0, and the like required quantity should be greater than 0 as well, right? So like likewise, like you can have your business validation done here before you make a call to the database. Then in case the validation is passed through, then it will go to the execution, the handler. So the handler basically make a call to the service, inventory service, to get the inventory by ID, right? So it just gets the gets this, and like it just check how many ever is in stock. It's greater than the number of items that we wanted to have it. So this is the uh, inventory service. So again, I said like the handler will make a call to the inventory service. So this is that implementation. So this is more of a generic implementation that we have here, right? So inventory service. So inventory service basically like it make a call to the inventory repository. So if you just, so here where like you can have your business logic, though I don't have any business logic. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to have this service in between your repository. You can directly make a call to your repository. But then like again, if you see here, right? So like for instance, for delete the inventory item, I'm just trying to get the item. If item it's there, then I delete, right? So that is again, it's not a very big business logic, but then like there is a small validation that I do here. So in most of the cases, like the services will be used to have your business logic implementation, and a repository it's just a pure database play. So as you see here, like this particular inventory data repository inherited from a base repository, and the base repository it's a generic repository. It just does the code operation: add, update, delete, get, whatever is that, right? So it's all done at the base repository level. This is t type, right? So you just need to say like what type you wanted to have it. In this case, this is item type. Then we have the context. This is for entity framework, right? So you have your DB context. So you have only one table created, and like you are seeding some of these values into that, and this is going to be your entity, item entity. So it has ID, name, price, number of stocks or whatever is that. Then you have your pagination list. Remember, like I was showing, when we respond back, in case of error, there is a specific structure, and in case of a valid data, there is a specific structure we need to follow. So this defines that pagination structure, and sometimes you need to use the pagination view model. So this is what it does. So when we send a response back, we wanted to follow a specific pattern that is done through this response, success response. And like in case of error, you will be using this error response. And as you see here, like success response uses the response bees that has the API version, and success response users has the response data, and the response data gives that kind of a structure that we wanted to have it. And the error, like error response has the error, and it has all these attributes here. Automapper basically like if you wanted to convert a specific object from one type to another type, you can use your automapper. That's what we do here. From DTO to entity, from entity to DTO, it's what we convert. Basically like all the conversion it's done by this particular library rather than we manually do it. That's all we have for this implementation. So that's what this application does. But then like you also need to have some test cases around. So as you see here, like I have a unit test and as well as the integration test. Like just validates the specific method. In this case, it just checks the check inventory method. So to do so, like all you need to do is that you can run your .NET test here. Talk about the integration test. So integration unit test, it's done before you pause your build. Integration test, it's done like once your application it's deployed. You wanted to make sure like application it's working as expected. So in this sense, like if you want to access any of these endpoints, you need to have a JWT token. To do so, like you need to read you need to have your some one or other way you need to create your acquire your JWT token. That's what we do here. So there is a test base using which we get the access token, and there is a health endpoint controller. It doesn't need a JWT tokens in just a direct call, and there is going to be a inventory controller. It needs the token, so we are just getting the token and using it. Using the token, there is a method in the test base that give us the token, and we are using the token to make a call to the check availability, right? So you can again you can run this by running this .NET test. It will show you. Then we have this Docker multi-stage Docker definition. It's what we are using here. So we just build the application, and then using that build, we create a container here. Then we have three different pipelines. One is the CI pipeline. So CI pipeline, it's when a PR it's merged, it will run. It will run the unit testing. If a unit testing passes, then it will let you merge your code. Build pipeline, once the PR it's merged, and then the build pipeline will run. It containerizes your application, right? So that's all it does. So if you just come down here at the end, you will see it will create an image and pushes the images to the registry. Then we have this CD. So build, it's done by the build pipeline, and then the delivery is done by the CD pipeline. So now we will look into a few other implementation here. So here, if you see here, this is again a query here. Just gets the ID based on which it returns the item. It has a handler. It calls the service and then get the item inventory. And there is a add one. So basically it gets the DTO, add item DTO, and then it has some validation methods here. And then once it is done, it actually adds the item into the it makes a call to the service again, that inserts the data into the database. So that's all I have for this video. Hope you understood how do we build the enterprise grade .NET Core application. Thank you for watching.